Hi, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where in the world you are today. I am Diane Krakora, CEO of PartnerPath, and welcome to this week's Technology Channel videocast. With me, I have Charlene O'Hanlon. I know that's new. How are you doing, Charlene?
Hey, Diane, I'm great. How are you?
Good. What a concept to have you join me.
I know, right? It's like nobody ever expects that.
Right? Week after week. It is February. Can you believe it?
Yes and no. I'm excited because it's one more month closer to summer, which is kind of how I measure winter. It's like, okay, we're almost there to the end. So,
Well, that's what you get for living in New York.
well, I think, you know what, though? I will say, and then we can get on with this. The weather in Tucson this year has been worse than the weather in New York. So go figure.
Go figure. I'd call that global warming, but I guess that wouldn't work. All right, so for today, we're going to talk about a little bit more data from the State of the Partnering Study, and I'm going to share a slide just for a couple of minutes so that you guys see what the heck we're talking about. The point that I'm trying to make, there's three pieces of data on this slide, what we wanted to talk to. The first that we're gonna is activities that the partner company was not engaged in 24 months ago. So this comes from our 214 solution provider partners from the State of Partnering study that we did in November and December of 2016. And it was interesting that almost 25% of the respondents that are solution providers indicated that more than half of their sales for 2016 came from activities that their company was not involved in 2 years ago. That's a huge increase over the 6% for that same question that we saw last year's study. Things, they are changing.
Mm-hmm. And well, you know, what I find really interesting is the fact that line of business really kind of took off in the last year. It's, you know, not only is it more than 25% of sales, but something that they're going to be increasing. So that really kind of it's very telling when you think about the way that traditional IT has been sold by the channel. You know, it's always been sold to the IT department, and now line of business is getting involved. And I don't know if that means that we one day may actually see the death of the IT department, or at least see the death of the IT department as the main procurer.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting piece of data on this slide as well. So, you know, additionally, that's about 30% of the solution providers indicated more than half of their revenues, right? So that blue bar in the second section is half of their revenues, where the first bar is only 25% of their sales. So that half of their revenues came from a line of decision makers, and 75% indicated that they would be increasing their investment in selling the line of business in the next 12 months.
That's pretty amazing. It's I just I have to believe, though, that has more to, you know, that's obviously happening more in the enterprise space, because there really aren't lines of businesses in small businesses. But that said, you know, that actually could be changing also as small businesses become more kind of vertically inclined, segmenting themselves by vertical markets rather than certain, you know, business expertise.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It goes kind of a little counter or a little in line with what we saw around cloud and the cloud solutions and the partner selling cloud. They're at least starting to sell to the line of business, which means that they're talking to HR directors, and those guys are buying things on a seat license. They're starting to, you know, sales and marketing, and they're selling solutions into those business opportunities rather than necessarily, as you mentioned, as we started this, selling into IT. We're really hearing from the solution providers that they're trying to come up with solutions that address the company's business needs around increasing sales productivity or driving more, more marketing success, and really being able to get numbers around that as well.
I think that's probably an easier sell for them to go into those line of business owners, if you will, and have that solutions conversation with them. Whereas IT, they may not understand the business needs for that particular line of business, and so they may not understand exactly how the technology is really going to address those business needs, and so they may think, you know, it's a nice to have technology rather than a must have technology, which is what the line of business owner is thinking. But you know what also I think is also kind of indicative of that is if you take a look at that slide again, we're talking about the APIs, the innovation that's being developed in-house. I think a lot of that also kind of speaks to that solution mindset that the channel partners or solution providers have these days, and selling into a line of business, being able to create, you know, that whole kind of soup to nuts technology solution that addresses those business needs. And a lot of that has to do with connecting disparate systems together, as we all know. And so it's one of those, you know, for them to be able to do that successfully, they need to be able to create the APIs to make that happen, or at least work with the APIs that were developed by the vendor companies to connect them all together.
Yeah, I think that's the third piece of data on this. It was also very interesting where it said more than, just for those of you who don't have that in front of you anymore, 20% of the solution providers that responded, again, we had 214 that responded, said that 50% of their business, 50% of their sales was coming from solutions that they developed in-house, or at least had a connector or a piece of their IP was in the solution. So it's not 100% of that 50% of sales, but 60% of those overall respondents said that they'd be investing more in creating their own IP. So these are little leave behinds or connectors, or, you know, something that ingrains them into their customer's overall solution. And we've had a lot of questions and discussions around, are solution providers becoming vendors?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think, you know, if nothing else, that in-house innovation that these solution providers are providing as part of the solution is what sets them apart from their competitors. That's their value add. And I think that a lot of solution providers understand that, and they realize that that's going to be the way that they're going to be successful in this kind of, you know, new business model and new way of interacting with their customers and creating those solution sets. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I wouldn't be surprised if that number actually doubles next year.
Yeah, I think particularly as you and I have talked about around IoT and them starting to really take these different products, there's no such thing as an IoT product, and put them together, and knit them together with their own bits of IP. Right. I think we'll definitely see more of that going forward in the coming years. So thank you for bantering about this little piece of data with me today, Charlene, and we will be back next week with even more data. I know, I love data. Thank God you've got Charlene there who can actually add some color to it, not just talk to you about numbers. Love the numbers.
Well, numbers are good. Data is always fun to work with.
Well, thank you, and thanks all for watching. And add any questions or comments or any other pieces of data that you'd like to hear about. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.